The Silent Neighbours, Part 2. The scraping sound kept me up that night. It was faint but unmistakable. I lay in bed, straining to listen, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The noise wasn't rhythmic like before, it was irregular, as if something, or someone, was trying to drag something heavy across the floor in jerky, uneven motions. The sound seemed to come from beneath the apartment, then suddenly stopped. I stayed perfectly still in the dark, my mind racing. Maybe I was just overthinking things. It was late, my nerves were frazzled from work, and I'd been staring at a computer screen for hours. There's a perfectly logical explanation for this, I told myself. But even after I tried to close my eyes, sleep wouldn't come. I got out of bed, feeling the cool floorboards under my feet, and moved to the wall where the sound had been the loudest. The apartment next door was dark, the hallway outside empty. I pressed my ear to the wall, straining to hear. There was only silence now, thick and still. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw it. A sliver of light, faint but unmistakable, seeping through the crack beneath the neighbour's door. It was almost imperceptible at first, but as I watched it, the light grew more distinct. A bright, almost unnatural white glow, like an overhead light on full blast, though there was no source in the apartment, and no one had moved in yet. I stood there for a long time, just staring at that sliver of light, unable to bring myself to knock. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled, and that feeling, the one I couldn't explain, returned. I felt watched. I backed away from the door and tried to shake the unease creeping into my chest, but the silence didn't last long. Just before I turned to go back to my apartment, the scraping noise returned. Louder this time, almost frantic. It was coming from beneath again, but this time it sounded like it was coming closer. I could feel the vibrations of the sound, like something heavy was being dragged across the ceiling, directly above me. What the hell is going on? I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my keys, threw on my jacket, and left my apartment. I walked down the narrow hallway to the landlord's door. My knock felt too loud, echoing against the walls. There was no answer. I knocked again, a little harder this time. Nothing. I checked my phone. It was late, well past midnight. My fingers were trembling, my pulse quickening, and the noise from next door was still hammering in my ears. I stood in front of the landlord's door for a long time, debating what to do. Maybe he had left the building, or maybe he was just ignoring me. But in that moment, I realised something. The longer I stood there, the more convinced I became that something very wrong, was happening. I turned back down the hallway toward my apartment. When I reached the door, I hesitated. I had to know what was behind that door. If the neighbours had truly moved out, why was there still light leaking from their apartment? I turned the knob. It was unlocked. I pushed the door open just a crack. The room inside was dark, eerily still. No furniture, no belongings, just empty. But the air felt dense, thick with a sort of oppressive energy. As I stepped inside, the hairs on my neck stood on end. And then, I saw it. In the centre of the room, lying on the floor, was a single piece of furniture. A wooden chair. It looked old, worn, and completely out of place. But that wasn't what stopped me in my tracks. It was the scratching marks on the floor. Deep, gouged lines, as if something heavy had been dragged across the room, and had scraped over and over again. The floorboards under the chair were gouged, uneven. The marks led to the far wall, where something dark and sticky had pulled. I stepped closer. It was red. Not much, but enough to make my stomach churn. Before I could react, a voice from the hallway stopped me cold. "What are you doing in there?" I turned quickly to see the landlord standing in the doorway, his face an unreadable mask. His eyes were narrow, his posture stiff. I didn't know what to say. The words caught in my throat. I heard strange noises. He stepped into the room with an almost imperceptible sigh. Then, without missing a beat, he walked over to the chair and turned it toward the wall, hiding the scratches. "Sometimes things happen in old buildings," he said calmly. "Things that can't be explained. People come and go. You'll get used to it." His eyes lingered on mine for a long moment, his expression softening slightly. "But if you ever hear anything again, just come to me, all right?" I nodded quickly, still unsure of what had just happened. As I turned to leave, I felt his eyes on the back of my neck. The door clicked shut behind me. Follow for more stories coming soon.